Let me just make a few remarks in response to that great question. This is going to always, the question of arms sales is always going to be a mixture of international law and international politics. International law alone won't bring liberation to Palestine. It won't bring an end to arms sales. But international law combined with international resolve will. And my hope is that these growing voices in the international community will press the International Criminal Court and the Office of the Prosecutor to take the question of Israel's violations of international law, both in the way it's been conducting its occupation over the last 57 years, and more particularly the way it's conducted its war over the last 6 months, seriously. This has been the unfortunate, but the way in which the prosecutor's office has moved in the almost over 9 years this file has been open in front of it has been like molasses. We had rulings from the International Criminal Court pre-trial chamber in February of 2021 saying that the International Criminal Court did have jurisdiction over war crimes in the occupied Palestinian territory. And we've had now over 3 years of a formal investigation with very evident crimes being committed, ones in the past, low-hanging fruit like the illegality of the Israeli settlements as a war crime, and more current ones with respect to how this war is conducted. This has finally caught the attention, I think, of the prosecutor. We are seeing more financial resources being delivered to the prosecutor's office in order to expand the team of investigators looking into these allegations. But I suspect the decision to go ahead with starting to issue arrest warrants coming from the prosecutor's office will always be a matter of politics. And international law, just like domestic law, is always a struggle between law in the service of justice and law in the service of power. And what we have to do as human rights advocates, I think, is to ensure that law in the service of justice has as large a space as possible to be able to ensure that those with power, with responsibility, act with purpose in order to go after those for whom international law is designed to bring to accountability and to end impunity. So let's keep our fingers that this will happen at the level of the prosecutor's office. But I also like the idea of where possible, and this is true predominantly in the global north, that virtually every country in the global north, the United States being one important exception, has brought the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court into their domestic legislation. And therefore, it's entirely open to domestic courts to hear cases with respect to universal jurisdiction on war crimes. If war crimes apply with respect to Israel's actions in the occupied Palestinian territory, then we must put a spotlight on Israeli military leaders, Israeli political leaders, and Israeli administrative leaders who facilitate these war crimes, such as the Israeli settlements, such as the conduct of the war in Gaza, such as annexation de jure and de facto of Palestinian occupied land. So let's keep all those together, but keep in mind that my closing remark would be that international law is not self-executing. And like that quote I offered from Martin Luther King Jr. and the Reverend Jesse Jackson, we've got to make that arc of history bend towards justice. It's United Actions law won't do it all by itself.